Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host, Gamer K. And it's fucking May. Yeah, I know for my first official video, I'm really late, but a lot of things happened last week. So I got a little sidetracked of getting this video released on time weekly. So, with that being said, this upcoming week, there will be no video. I'm going to take a break to get over my allergies starting to hit up. That way I can actually be ready to do videos again. So yeah. And what good way to start May, which is E's birth month, by the way. So I picked a video that is definitely him. Go almost done with my top 13 Yu-Gi-Oh! Duels videos. And in this one, we will swing into action and put on an amazing performance with the duels that crossed dimensions. This one was kind of a hard one to do because in this series, in this season of Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V, there are a lot of great duels. Some of them are like either really quick or kind of gimmicky again with the action duels that they do. Are there? No, actually, there's been only a couple that aren't action duels. Actually, no, there hasn't. Which gives it a bunch of action spells and traps, and basically dueling is about putting on a show for people. And these top 13s have definitely raised the bar of what if virtual reality can get off their butts and give us what we want for Yu-Gi-Oh! Such as on motorcycles and this, but I doubt that's in the future. So here we are, Gamer K's top 13 Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V Duels. And why top 13? Because here on the Game Hub, only the odd can be number one. Strong. It is a duel during the synchro dimension part of the story. And one thing that I do like about Arc V is that it does split the previous series into their own dimensions. Zexal being Xyz, 5Ds being the synchro, GX and original are the fusion dimension, and the pendulum is being the neutral one, which is the main area. And I do like how they don't have any of the main heroes, but they have so many of the other actual main cast in each dimension. So, going for the synchro dimension, we've got Yugioh versus Shinji, which is a really cool battle during, like I said, the synchro dimension arc. This battle goes with Yugioh fighting one of the allies they met, who is kind of like Crow, and wants to have the commoners rise up against the people of the city, because if you lose a duel, you get put to work in the recycling area or that area, which sucks. So he uses his Battle Wasp deck, which is a really fun deck that focuses on getting out numerous members of the swarm in order to synchro summon into the bigger batter monsters, like Azusa the Ghosta, Arbalista, Armageddon, that giant battle wasp. I can't remember its name, but the image will be right here. Hama the Conquering Bow, and using all their special abilities to either inflict effect damage after during battle damage, which is a cool mechanic. And I do like that they added a new Crow character, even though Crow is still here, that kind of uses the same kind of thing. While Crow uses Black Wings, Shinji uses his Battle Wasps. And Yugioh having a hard time with this. And it's a fun battle. It's a cool battle, especially like during the duel. A bunch of the commoners are finally rising up against the oppression, because just like a swarm, you mess with one bee, you handle the whole swarm. And it's such a great moment of things happening outside of the duel. And I do like situations like that. Again, Yuya is obviously having a hard time battling with this because not used to synchro summoning, because Yuya still has to master that. But during this, he uses a card given to him by a commoner boy, who this card was given to Jack, I think, as an insult, because, you know, this is when Jack was on high and a bit of a jackass. Tuning Magician. So, Yuya utilizes this card very well without having to plan it, and gets a brand new monster, Enlightenment Paladin, which, oh my god, just watching this thing debut with Yuya's first synchro summon, and it's just an awesome fight, and he really turns the tables on Shinji. It's a great fight to start off this list. It's a little bit lower because as much as how am I going to say this? As much fun as it is, it kind of follows the formulaic thing of the hero obviously going to pull out a victory out of his hat. So not real surprised. The story of the commoners up against the city, love that story for it that goes on behind the scenes. But again, the duels are what's being focused on, so focus on. So yeah. Quiz time! I'm joking. Pierre versus Yuya is an early episode battle where Yuya is trying to get entry into the tournament that's going to be happening by Akaba Group. Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they kind of tried subtly to have the last names be different, but we know. And Pierre is this little shit who is the big brainiac, and they battle on a field called Quiz Challenge? Anyway, the action field where all the special cards come out. And basically action traps, where if you activate it, you have to answer a question. If you get it right, good things happen to you and you gain life points. Get it wrong and you take damage depending on how high the box was that you activated the trap from. They'll ask weird questions like Raccoon and Treasure has the exact same number of R's in them, or what's a good one? Oh, what's heavier, a pound of feathers or a pound of weights? No, like. So it has questions like that, and Yuya, obviously not being the smartest, the sharpest tool in the shed, he starts losing a lot of life points. Not only that, but a lot of Pierre's monsters are these quiz monsters, where once they're attacked, their abilities activate. For example, Quiz Monkey, when he's attacked, you have to answer the question. At the end of the battle, how many quiz monsters will remain on the field? And it's a BS question, because if you say there will be none after attacking him, he'll do a trap not so fast that stops a quiz monster from being destroyed, and any battle damage is reduced to 0. So, yeah. And if you say 1, he'll let the monster be destroyed. Yeah. And this strategy really messes with Yuya's whole strategy of having a bunch of monsters, because these quiz cards just screw him over. And then they get a little fun extra stage where they do quizzes about Yu-Gi-Oh! Like the difference between these two Raigeki break cards. Yuya doesn't get a single one right. Or how many teeth are on the Pot of Greed card, and the answer is 20. Which is really a fun, actually, little tidbit. I do like some of these questions. So it's... Oh, wait, but first Yuya answers a $5,000 damage question. What are the first 100 numbers in the number pi? This is Yu-Gi-Oh, right? I mean, Yuya doesn't know the answer, but he uses a trap card to inflict that damage onto Pierre. So, using his unable to... Because that's a strategy. That's a cool strategy. If you can't know the answer to avoid damage, take the damage and inflict it. And because in the earlier episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh, there's always these gimmick people who use very cool archetypes that don't have a lot to them, but it's the gimmick about it that makes it fun. And that's what gets it on the number 12 spot. Next up, we get one that isn't the main character. Actually, no, that's not true. We got another synchro dimension, Yugioh versus Selena. Yeah, Selena. Ironically, doppelgangers fighting each other, but they're not from the same dimension. But it's the fusion dimension female versus the synchro dimension dude, and it's awesome. I love Yugioh's duel runner being his actual duel disc, because he doesn't duel. Even later in the show when he duels, he doesn't get off the bike. He just stays on it, and it doesn't equip to his arm like Yusei's does, which, I'm going to be honest, I'm happy for that because it's not carbon copy paste. And he uses an amazing but tricky speedroids to kind of get the upper hand, and then Selena using her fusion of her Luna Light dancers, which, again, very fun matchup. Except when this douchebag, Roger, higher up security chief of the sector. Yeah. If you guys thought this guy from the facility was a cheater, oh boy. This guy wants Selena to win, so he has an advantage. Because Roger was sent from the fusion dimension to conquer the synchro dimension, but he got a little too power hungry and now wants to, what else? Take over the dimension. Of course. So with that, he starts rigging the speed duel by changing the course to benefit Selena to give her the next action cards in order to win, and constantly screwing Yugioh over in the process. After a while, Selena kind of puts two and two together and decides she doesn't want to win by luck. She's going to win with her own skill and ignores Roger's help. Obviously, they're not working together. Roger's just being a kind of a jackass. But when all seems lost in amazing power, Yugioh summons his crystal wing synchro dragon and wins the match. It's a great battle because there's a bit of synergy between Selena and Yugioh, because he confuses her for Rin because they all look alike. It's a good chemistry. I prefer Selena as a duelist because she actually has the ability to actually fight and actually duels more. But yeah, this was a great fight in the synchro dimension. And let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. More than half of them are from the synchro dimension. Holy shit, I never realized that when I made this list. Well, what can you do? Number 10 up on the list is a battle that was, again, right near the beginning of the tournament, before the dimension hopping became a big thing. We got Yugioh versus Silvio, who uses one of my favorite decks, and it literally is one of my favorite decks, but it's not used yet until later on in the story. Yugioh, being the pendulum master, finally gets a taste of his own medicine when Silvio's brand new deck, the Yosenjus, which are basically Japanese kamatachis, which are the weasels with the chain kamas and weapons, and a bunch of wind creatures based on Japanese lore, start decimating Yugioh's strategies. And I really do love it. having the character kind of get a taste of his own medicine after a good while, since he's been the only one to kind of use that somewhat mechanic. I don't think it... I think this is the only time when pendulum cards were just being created. And they started... and this is the first time Yugioh had to... Aside from Declan, that's the only time. And the Senjus have this annoying ability of returning to the hand after they're being used, which triggers 2 amazing cards, which sends the opponent's monsters back to the hand and then back to the deck. And then the big bad Yosenju, this giant ass whirlwind weasel, and I love it. I love the design of this thing. So Yugioh is struggling to get out when he finds a trap card that was, and then he uses a trap card that was used later on, that was returned to his hand, which is a trap amnesia. All monsters on your opponent's field lose their names, and since they're not Yosenjus, at the end of the turn, they do return to their hand. But because there weren't Yosenjus, the trap Dizzying Winds sends them back to the deck. Because again, if their names don't have Yosenju in them, they are sent right back. It's a really cool trap specifically for the anime for this situation, because it overwrites the card's name, so they're not an archetype anymore. They don't fit with the deck, and I do like that. Plus, he does a fun thing of taunting Silvio to attack him when Silvio doesn't know that he saw an action spell to get himself out of the situation. So that's another thing I love about the action duel mechanic in this game. You can bluff your opponent into because you gotta search for the action cards throughout the field. And it does a really good job of making the fights feel a little more entertaining. Entertaining, yeah. Suspenseful sometimes, because we kind of already know what will happen because it's Yugioh. Very rarely does the main character lose a good number of times. This next one is one that, when I first watched it, had no clue how this was going to work. Yugioh versus Lulu and Selena. Yeah. In the fusion dimension, this evil professor gets a parasite into these girls to basically turn them evil and have them fight Yugioh with Yuto's spirit, the Xyz version of himself within him, allowing him to still use Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon. Seriously, look at this thing. Look at this thing and tell me it's not one of the coolest and most original dragon looks that has come out of Yu-Gi-Oh! In a good number of years. Exactly. Going out throughout this whole battle, Yugioh is obviously outnumbered 2-1. And then they use their parasite cards, their fusion cards, in order to get their parasite queen out and a whole bunch of fusion parasites in order to decimate Yugioh's numbers. And then the doctor, mid-duel, decides to taunt him that he's going to brainwash Zuzu as well. And it's kind of obvious that her and Yugioh kind of like each other a little bit. And actually, with the exception of Yuri and Selena, all of them kind of like each other, their respective dimensions, which I really do love. Yeah, halfway, the battle's not even done, and now you decide to taunt the hero with his girlfriend being brainwashed? Is this doctor stupid? So, the anger of Yuto kind of gets the better of Yugioh in the best way possible, as he gets this amazing, evil, angry burst of energy and uses his 2 pendulum cards to change the level and rank the level of Odd Eyes and Rebellion And even so, the parasite monsters start getting afraid. And good behold, we get one of the most awesome rage episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh! Not since the day of Yami just beating the out of Weevil with that Berserker Soul card do we get this. We get the amazing Odd Eyes Raging Dragon. Like, you know what? I can't say anything. Literally badass summoning. And because of its ability, by using an overlay unit, let's see, what was that thing again? Oh yeah, destroys every card on the opponent's field and increases its strength by 200. But because of the Parasite Trap's effect, the Parasite Queen isn't affected. But Raging Dragon still demolishes it. But then the girls make a small comment that, and saying that you can only attack one of us, but the other one will get a time next turn. And then, again, this scene, I know I'm using scenes a little bit too much for this one segment, but when it's as badass as this, I can't help it.
Still has a chance next turn. There is no next turn! Because Odd Eyes Raging Dragon can attack twice this turn! Now Odd Eyes Raging Dragon, attack! Go! Infernal Fury Strike!
Yes. Tell me a moment in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where a main hero goes absolute savage like that. That isn't Zane or Kite. It's a fantastic fight. And I gotta continue this list. Number 8 on the list is one that is not main characters, finally. It's another earlier episode, but it's one that I love with a passion. It's the third match between the Akaba School and the Yugioh Duel School. Kit versus Gong. This is a great battle between this, like, two characters that I loved immediately because of their style and because these students from the Akaba School bring in archetypes that were already cards, but not used in anime yet. Fusion, Julia got the Gem Knights, Dipper got the Constellars, and Kit Blade got the X-Sabers. So, Kit Blade got the X-Saber. So I was really happy about that. And we had the brand new archetype for Gong, the Super Heavy Samurai deck, which, having the mechanical samurais go up against literal bladed warriors fits so well. And even the battlefield, the Cemetery of Swords was, I think that's what it's called. I don't care. It was such a cool battlefield. And during the fight, Kit is just synchro summoning and summoning monsters left and right, which I do love. I love how even though they're kids, they still know how to duel and they're not like making mistakes. That came with the younger kids in like the future couple episodes, but I digress. And Kit and Gong are going toe for toe during this fight. It never feels like one character obviously has the huge edge. It just showcases their own skills. And when Kit thinks he's getting rid of a lot of Gong's cards in his hand, it's an amazing thing. And throughout the battle, you actually have to get action cards. During the fight, you have to move around, you have to find them and get them in order to activate them. But during this whole battle, Blade has been moving around and getting cards to boost up his X-Sabers. But Gong hasn't moved an inch. And Yu is the only one who knows why, because that's his style. Gong reveals a big thing later on. And it's a saying that kind of... Okay, to be fair, this was a saying that was done in earlier Yu-Gi-Oh! When a lot of the abilities weren't done. Remember when Yugi said to Joey in the beginning that your deck is filled with nothing but monster cards? But that's not how the game works. Fast forward 4 seasons later, and it is now. Gong activates monster effects that decrease his big monster's defense points in order to dish out a whole bunch of damage by the reduced number. And these abilities can only be activated as long as he has no spell and trap cards in his graveyard. And that's when it's revealed that that Gong's deck is filled with monster cards of all the Super Heavy Samurais. And that just blew my mind when I first watched Arc V. It was such a badass announcement that everyone is shocked. And especially one of my favorite characters of the show, Sora, who completely thought Kit was going to overtake this battle, but got surprised. And yeah, Kit then uses a spell card to reflect the effect damage being dealt to him. But then Gong comes out with another monster, big soul armor. By banishing it from the graveyard, and you have no spells and traps, it destroys every monster on the field, and both players take damage equal to all the monsters' levels on the field times 100. And I'll get the monsters out on here and tally up the damage. It's a draw. The third fight is a draw. I did not see it coming. I thought for sure they were going to lose, and they would have to do something like win the future tournament in order to get back their school. But no, it goes into sudden death 4th round, which is amazing. I love going back to the synchro dimension to talk about duels that literally have some of the best fights, and obviously bringing back a bunch of some of the weirdness that they had. For example, having this badass dude named Sergey go up against Jack in one of the final fights. And Sergey having the Earthbound Immortals. And because the action field cross acceleration is always on the field, Earthbound Immortals are pretty much safe. Anybody summons up like the new ones that come out, like the Fusion and the Synchro versions. And Sergey being turned into a cyborg to serve Roger. Sergey being a criminal who was upgraded with machines. And they even do their best to make him sound Russian too. And obviously, Roger wanting to take down Jack Atlas so he can control more of the Synchro Dimension, he obviously cheats by giving Sergey a card that, as he discards a card from his hand, he deals a little bit of damage to Jack. And obviously, him being ahead of Jack, and because during the duel, only one person can have an action card in their hand at a time, because when you get them, you're supposed to use them immediately. So, him, and also his dual runner basically metamorphosizes and turns him into a unicycle monster. Yu-Gi-Oh! You're not supposed to be getting super creepy and dark until next season. Seriously, if you think the stuff that has happened in Yu-Gi-Oh! Before is not dark enough without the subbed, just wait till the next one. But then Jack is able to outmaneuver Sergey, even though he summons out his ultimate beast, Yugioh, and This thing gives Weird Kocharaska and all the other Dark Signer immortals a run for their money. But even with this big badass monster, of course Jack is going to summon an overarching monster of Red Dragon Archfiend and it completely demolish Sergei. The fight was freaking intense and absolutely fantastic. Going back to the Pendulum Dimension, and during a round of the tournament, we got one of my favorite characters ever, Shay Obsidian versus Sora. Xyz versus Fusion. And Sora is the guy who gave us the Fright Fur deck. The Fright Furs, ladies and gentlemen. The ones that are those cuddly animals like a bear and a dog and every other cuddly animal. And mixed with implements such as scissors, saw blades, chains, and fuses them together to create Five Nights at fucking Freddy's inspired fusion monsters. We go from cuddly bear to this. Oh, the nightmare fuel. Oh boy. And people thought Blood and Honey was a creepy depiction of a soft, cuddly teddy bear turned into a psychotic monster. Wow, I never thought I'd be able to get that movie into a joke. Guess May's doing good for me so far. And Shay giving us the Raid Raptors, this amazing flying force of avian potential. And him just going total warfare on Sora's punk little ass. And it's obviously kind of later on that Sora is from the Fusion Dimension and is a villain. You mean the blue-haired kid that no one has heard of? Who uses fusion summoning? Uses cute and cuddly monsters that turn into absolute evil creatures? Was a villain? Seriously, if you didn't think Sora was going to be a villain at any point, you were an idiot. The battle goes a little bit back and forth with them summoning out some of their best monsters and using some of their best little tricks. But then, because the field that's chosen is Neo Heartland City, which is Shay's home. Yeah, Sora hit a sore spot. And Shay just goes full anger and uses Raid Raptor, Revolution Falcon to deliver the final freaking blow to Sora. Yeah, I'm just going to say this of the villains. Don't gloat until you've actually won. Because too many of them do that in this season, and it pisses me off. Yeah, shorter entry, pretty good. Not a lot happens. Next up. This next one, we're going back to the Synchro Dimension, where we are on full force of fucking Declan versus Roger. Yes, Declan, the absolute one of the top rivals of Yu-Gi-Oh! Much like with Kaiba, Zane, Jack, and frickin' Kite. Declan is one of the few characters in the game who actually loses a duel. Not once does he lose a duel. Except in the final where they're battling like Yuya's evil merge form Zark. But that's when everybody is dueling him. So if someone interrupts a duel, they get a penalty of losing 2,000 life points. I mean, the minute they interrupt, it's their turn. But it's an intrusion penalty that was done during the Battle Royale rule. Which, again, I'm not going to lie, they fleshed out a bunch of stuff like that. But Declan finally gets the upper hand on Roger. And it's such a cool thing. And Roger, uses the ancient gears to create Howitzer, and then adds it with a spell card to defend it. And Howitzer can deal 1,000 damage each turn. So Declan's got to think very hard. Which is weird because his subordinate said that they defeated him, but then he just came back. He's immortal. Yeah, there are a couple things that kind of hinted that there's more than meets the eye. So Declan orchestrates this amazing combo, and destroys freaking Howitzer and destroys the rest of Roger's life points. But then Roger disappears, and then he reappears, and then intrusion penalty, 2,000 life points. And instead of explaining the whole thing, I'm going to take a break from this and let Declan explain his whole strategy over.
I can destroy Double Lisa Von Thomas and Double Lisa Von Nicola again to summon Chaos King Apocalypse. And by returning Chaos King Apocalypse to my hand, I set the pendulum scale once more. Which triggers my dark contract with swinging miss that deals you 2,000 points of damage, which eliminates all your life points. So when you resurrect, I just do this combo all over and defeat you again, and again, and again.
So basically, he's saying that he'll just keep using this combo over and over. Roger will never get another turn. And it's revealed that he's up in the upper deck with Zuzu, and it was just a digital copy that he created that was a brand new clone, which would explain the intrusion penalty of 2,000 life points. Roger was just messing with them and cheating at the same time. I don't know what happens to Roger after this arc, and I don't care. Declan basically just got one glance at the situation and formulated a strategy that absolutely decimated him with his own cheat. Next up, we got a very, very, very quick duel. After Selena lost her fight to Yugioh, Sector Security, who is 3 Sector Security officers who are obviously under the command of Roger, try to take her into custody. And they did so by beating her in a duel, kind of, until she was weak. But then, a surprise character came out. Riley, who is Declan's younger brother, who uses these cards of film in order to copy opponents' monsters and to use them for various summoning mechanics. Even though he's a little kid, he's got mad skills, and I want his double C cards, his double C and triple C cards, to be made a reality. But of course, in choosing on a duel, he lost 2,000 life points in order to save Selena. So the guards do their thing and summon their Earth attribute Yugioh cannons in order to dish out damage. But then Riley's second turn happens. And he's able to get out his ace monster, Double C Critical Eye, which is this weird, amalgamated, mechanical monstrosity. But it works. He uses a spell card that, after attributing his original monster, Film Magician, he's allowed. So first he uses his card Montage Fusion to summon out a Rock Sword of Battle. I think that's correct. Yeah, Rock Sword of Battle, by using Montage Fusion to fuse it with Critical Eye. Critical Eye being the main focus and using the copies of opponents' attribute cards in order to work. So I'm guessing, like, if this deck came out, there would be, like, a triple C monster of every single attribute for every single fusion, synchro, or XIII in order to work. Rock Sword of Battle. When this card declares an attack, you can have this card gain attack equal to the total attack of all Earth monsters currently on the field other than this card. And this card had 2,400 attack points. Let's see, total attack. So these monsters had the opponent's monsters had 800 points. This thing got 4,800, one swipe, and won. Then he went to Rock Blaster of Battle, which was synchro. Once per turn, during either player's turn, target a face-up monster your opponent controls. It loses 1,000 attack. When this card declares an attack, you can have this card gain attack equal to the total levels of all Earth monsters on the field other than this card times 200. So let's see. They were both level 6. Level 6. So 6 times 200, that's 12. 22. Yeah, basically getting 4,800 again or over and blasting the monster, destroying it. Second guy loses. Then goes to XIII with rock armor and battle. During either player's turn, detaching material from this card. This card gains attack equal to the half of the total defense of all Earth monsters on the field. If this card battles an Earth monster, negate that monster's effect. 2,500. So yeah, basically he one swooped all 3 of them. If this deck ever gets made, I swear to God, I'm getting it. So yeah, having one character who's not a main do this much damage was impressive. So I gotta give it to them. Battle number 3. Again, we're still in the fucking synchro dimension. I never noticed how many of the best battles in the show came from this dimension. Well, at least for me again. It's Shay versus Dennis. Oh, Dennis. This is during the speed duel tournament. And during a underground match, Shay had some renovations about Dennis. Dennis being one of the characters who has this uplifting personality and this showmanship personality with his performance monsters, which are spellcasters of various attributes that are actually kind of fun characters, and I'm glad that they made more of them. But Dennis had a little secret. During the last battle with Shay, he drew polymerization. And seeing since his deck uses XIII summoning, there should be no reason he has a fusion card. Because in the anime, the fusion method is usually used by the villains, Duel Academy. And this is where it gets good. During the fight, Shay activates a trap that targets on Shay's main monster, Trapeze Magician. Performance Trapeze Magician. When Magician goes by, Shay has to reveal every card in his hand. And turn 1, he gets polymerization. So as the duel goes on and he tries to prevent the Magician from being destroyed, he reveals polymerization and announces that he is from the fusion dimension. To the shock of everyone, except Shay, obviously, because Shay is one of those best characters that has very keen observation skills. And he uses it with another card to summon the ginormous, perfect ancient gear golem, or whatever this thing is called. It's the amalgamation of... This thing is so freaking badass that it's destroying the field as they go around and go around. Which is badass and fantastic. Shay ultimately summons his Satellite Falcon with its ability to launch the other XIII monsters at the golem to decrease its points. And as Dennis keeps trying to get an action card, the shake from the effect and the golem itself is jumping his dual runner. So here's the fun thing about that. If Dennis didn't summon the freaking golem, all the damage wouldn't have happened and all the bumps wouldn't be caused, allowing him to not get an action card to protect himself. So literally, Dennis revealing himself made him lose his showmanship performance, his style, and it screwed him up in the end. Shay, once again, being one of my favorite characters from Arc V, and being the number 3 spot. Number 2 is the second bout of one of my favorite all-time battles of Arc V, Yugioh versus Jack, Round 2. This is the final of the tournament after all the before all the crap with Roger, all the stuff of the commoners going up against the people of high society and all that's going on. While also the ultimate battle of Jack and Yugioh working, like it's Red Dragon Archfiend versus a bunch of circus characters. How more ridiculous can that get? But then again, Yugioh has been down for the count for a good number of rounds, and even though he thinks he gets one up over on Jack, Jack just has a counter for everything, proving why he's the master of faster. But then Yugioh summons Nirvana High Paladin and tries to use it, but then it gets sent to the Pendulum Zone, and then the real final begins. After summoning out a whole bunch of different monsters with a whole bunch of different, some of them look very, very weird. I can't remember one of the monsters, but Radish Horse, Gum Gum Gamutan, Bubble Bow Wow, and of course, Odd Eyes Pendulum. And he even uses the card Smile World to give every monster an extra 100 points for every monster on the field. Then he uses a big-ass combo that it could probably never be done in actual Yu-Gi-Oh! Play. And with the Smile World card, he brings everyone together. The people from the facility, the people from the commoners, the high society people, all the cops, everyone, bringing them together for this amazing final move. And we even get a Lazar cameo in this, and it just ends with Odd Eyes fighting Red Dragon the ultimate Red Dragon Archfiend, and it's just an amazing final fight for the Synchro Dimension that would sadly lead us into something of the Fusion Dimension and Synchro Dimension, where as amazing as the Synchro Dimension was, I felt like the XIII's and the Fusion Dimension, which were the final aspects, kind of dragged or rushed a little bit. So at least we got one amazing final battle with Jack being an absolute badass, and Yugioh, once again, showing everyone that dueling is all about having fun. So have fun with it. And now I'm finally finished with the number 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V. And if you know Arc V, there's only like 2 that could be on this list. The final battle of Zark versus everybody, which kind of ends in a BS way, so I don't really care for it. But no, I'm talking about the full final fight between Declan and Yugioh. The absolute final battle. And there's a lot going on here. And it's just insanity. Declan, once again, being one of the few rivals to never lose a duel. And he pulls out all the stops, using as many super special summonings as Yugioh does, going tit for tat for a majority of the fight. This is a fun finale. The actions card 5 Rainbow Magician. Oh, Pendulum Effect is applied. As long as a player has 4 or less set cards in their spell and trap zone, the attack of all monsters they control becomes 0. They cannot attack and cannot activate their effects. If a player does not skip their draw phase, they will not be able to set spell or traps during their turn. If a player controls 5 set spells in their Pendulum Zone, then these effects will be negated, and the attack of all monsters they control will be doubled. If a player adds a card to their hand outside the draw phase, they will be allowed to set that card. And when a player sets a card, the current turn is ended. So this is basically a game of who sets 5 cards, because both of them are rushing to find action cards first. And at the end of the whole thing, Declan loses. For the first time in Yu-Gi-Oh! History, the final battle is absolutely a real performance, a real show-stopping fight. having Declan be more of straightforward and a power and strategist, and Yugioh just going with the motions and having fun with his duel. It's an amazing fight. It's absolutely fantastic. It takes everything that all the duels in the show have and puts it on a final stage that deserves a full stadium applause. And that is my #1 duel from Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V, and I really hope you guys enjoyed the list. Sorry I was a little bit sniffly during the beginning and everything. Hopefully next video will be better. So thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. Like, comment, subscribe down below. May has only just begun, and I'm going to take where I rank a bunch of locations in a video game to see what treasures can be found in these beautifully designed creations of the mind where you never see it coming. This is Gamer K, logging out.